The other night, one of my sons had his heart set on sleeping outside in a tent. To him, it was this big adventure. He had to do it. He just had to. So we bundled up the blankets and the pillows and the books and the Pokemon. And we lay there for a really long time, his eyes just looking up at the sky. And I'd peek over and his eyes were just looking up at the sky. Finally, the sun went down though. His eyes fluttered and he finally went to sleep. And it was great. We brought him inside, I will tell you the truth, after it got to about 45 degrees. But he protested. He loved it. He said, I'll sleep under 3 blankets, whatever. I said, we'll try again. But boys are often adventurers at heart. They like competition and challenge. This bubble-wrapped world, that exists, but that little lion inside them still roars at the same time. Giving them a chance to express that is really important. Scouting America, which you probably know as Boy Scouts, has been doing just that since 1910. It has had several highs and public lows, but it's increasingly highlighted as an important place where boys get to be a part of a group of boys, meeting in real life, overcoming obstacles, honing skills, being outside, just being boys. Glen Pounder is the Chief Safeguarding Officer of Scouting America, and I asked him to come on to talk about the modern value of old-fashioned scouting. Glen Pounder, welcome to All Boy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chan. It's great to be with you.
Glen, you have worked literally all over the world. You've worked in law enforcement, in security, now with Scouting America. How did you come to the Scouts?
It's a great question, and I know we've got a lot to talk about, so I'll try and answer it fairly briefly. Actually, I know I don't sound like it, but I am American. I've been American for just a year, and I come originally from the UK. And my son, my oldest son, who's now 27, he went through Scouts in the UK. So my kind of journey to Scouts started really through his eyes and seeing his development outside of the school environment and what he got from Scouting in the UK. So my journey started through his eyes, but then years later, I was posted to the United States for UK law enforcement, and that led me on a journey into the non-profit space and into prevention work. And of course, the safeguarding role is quite wide. I'm sure we'll get into some of that, but. Again, for everything we do, it's all about prevention of harm, of course, and abuse of all the youth in Scouting.
My gosh, there is no more important matter for parents or kids or the organization now, reputationally as well, and wanting the best interest of the kids. So we are going to get into that.
Yeah.
Big picture, because your son went through the Scouts. I think there's over 1 million members in Scouting in America between kids and adults. You were one of the parents, which I would be one of the parents, and I'm a little nervous about. What did you see as the big benefits of Scouting?
Yeah, you're right. There's over 1 million kids and around about 500,000 adults as volunteers in Scouting, and of course the strength of the organization really is those adults, the majority of which are parents as well. So there's huge benefit in that for us as an organization, because the parents are as directly involved as they want to be from the very youngest part of the journey. Again, with kids 5, 6, 7, as Cub Scouts, the parents have to be involved, which is great. It's like see that development of a very young person. Yeah. And then as the Scouts, as those cubbies, as we call them, progress into being, a little bit bigger kids with a little bit more kind of development in them, 11, 12, the parents can stay involved if they want to, or they can have those days where they go, yeah, you're okay. I know everyone involved, and I'm willing to let you go away for a day and eventually even overnight without me as a parent. Again, having seen my own son go through this process, I've kind of seen him grow into now a very good man, and I couldn't be more proud of him, but I know for sure that his development was aided massively through the scouting journey. Not through formal education, but through scouting, a place where he was able to learn and grow and frankly make mistakes in a safe environment. And that's important for kids.
I love to hear you say that you feel like this helped him grow into a really good man. This morning, I'm just thinking of the journey over the next bit for my kids. This morning, one of them, we spent some time cleaning up the bathroom floor because we had something happen there, and thinking that you go from that to merit badges, to responsibilities, to growth and maturity. And it seems like something special, and maybe there's a reason this has been around since 1910.
Yeah, I think that's right. And of course, here in the United States, rightly, we celebrate, very strongly our Eagle Scouts. We have an ambassador right now, David Montgomery, plays for the Detroit Lions. Wonderful example of what the power of scouting is. But in my view, it isn't only about Eagle Scouts. Like every scout who comes into this program gets that ethos, the ethics, giving back, working with others, real skills for life that I think, again, are more important now than they've ever been, not least because of the online world. I mean, look at us talking to each other from 1,500 miles apart, right?
Yes.
The online space is something we might talk about as well, but those real world experiences and even getting a little bit deep anthropologically, the development of young children into good adults is probably more important again now than it's ever been.
Well, and they say developmentally, people like Jonathan Haidt say, we were made to be in small groups where there's going to be a few different age brackets and there's going to be social order and you're
Right.
going to get smacked down a few times and then you're going to be the one who's in charge, And so learning rules and formalities, that's also important, it seems. And there's a lot of structure and tradition involved in scouting, is my understanding. I'm not a scout. I grew up we called it Royal Rangers in church, and it was kind of similar, but I was a dropout. Sorry. Yeah, I flamed out, but it seems like if you stick with it, you learn so much. Can I read Scout Law, by the way?
Yes, sure.
A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Reading that, I think, oh my gosh, yes, I want a Chick-fil-A employee kid, not the TikTok kids who I see so much out there. How do you go about achieving that?
Yeah, I think that's right. And of course, we're both parents looking at it from a parent's perspective. Who doesn't want that for their kids, right? Who doesn't want their kid to be trustworthy and loyal and helpful and kind and all the things that we want for our society?
Yeah.
So I think scouting instills that. It's what's expected. It's what's mirrored, of course, by the adults and by the older scouts. They get to have been that little kid who then proceeds into a troop as they develop into a slightly older kid, but then they're the youngest again, and that progress eventually for them to be the patrol leader, to be planning exactly what's going to happen that day. That's transformational. And again, I reference my son. Of course, in the work environment, he's a problem solver. Some people see problems and they go to their boss. My son doesn't. He sees a problem, he solves it, and he tells his boss, here's the problem, and here's how I've solved it. And they go, okay, carry on. Right?
You get a raise.
What we do in scouting, right?
Yeah. AI can only do so much. You do need people who are industrious and thoughtful.
Yeah, absolutely that. And added to that, the communication skills,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to, persuasively argue with adults in an environment where the adult, of course, is in charge, but the scout gets to put their point of view. It might not always be successful, but sometimes it will be. And again, there's real value for that for the workplace. So they're learning life skills while having a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got to underline that it's so much fun in scouting. And again, for me, it's great to get to a jamboree and see scouts in the real environment.
What's a jamboree?
So a jamboree, we have our next one actually next year. 15,000 kids, no word of a lie, not on these devices, trading patches as if it was 1935. It's a magical sight, and it, again for kids, I mentioned them being smart. I was out at one of our high adventure bases called Philmont in New Mexico, over 140,000 acres.
Wow.
Real magic out there. So there's a 18-year-old who's out there working, and the wind is blowing through the trees. It's kind of the equivalent of being near the ocean. And I'm listening to this noise, and I'm in the backcountry. And I was like, wow. He goes, what? I said, do you want to swap jobs? He was like, no, get out of here. I mean, this kid's living the dream. And he's like, yeah, because no signal, no doom scrolling, no problem, no stress. And I was like, wow, this kid's dialed in, he's got it.
I want to get into some of the unique dynamics of being involved in scouting, but real quick, what's the ideal age to start?
So the ideal age to start really is whatever suits that child, I would say, and that family, by which I mean you could start 11, 12, 13, 14 if you wanted to, but you can also start, again, this is where the parent is really closely involved, but also start as young as 4, 5, 6 years old now.
Okay.
We have a new program called Squirrels, which is for very young kids. Again, it's very small activities where they can do something on the outside, earn a little, bit of progress towards a badge, and so
Okay.
the whole age range.
Do you have to sell cookies in Scouts?
No.
Okay.
No is the short answer. But you can sell popcorn. So
Okay. So, in our house, my kids speak Spanish mostly, so pororo they call it. Yeah, they speak Spanish.
Real life popcorn. So
Good. Okay. Let's get into the dynamics. Connection seems to be so key. There's nature, but there's also your cohort. Boys are lonely right now in America, more so than ever. Scouting magazine points this out. 15% of young men today say they do not have a close friend, not one single close friend, according to AIBM. That number is 5 times higher than it was in 1990. In Scouts, it doesn't even seem like an option, at least if I'm understanding the dynamics, for you to be solo.
yeah, that really is designed to have that camaraderie, right? And I, we can talk kind of separately with regards girls who are now in scouting, about 20%, 200,000 ish.
Oh, really?
But the 800,000 or so boys, that camaraderie is a crucial part of their development. And we have some, if I hope they don't mind me calling them this, we have some now old boys in scouting, guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s.
Well,
who are
okay,
still
that's
friends. Yeah, but still friends with the same boys they met when they were 10, 11, 12, 13.
I was going to ask you, how durable are these relationships?
They're as strong as oak, those bonds, because again, it can be as simple as they've gone through something together as boys and come out of it on the other end. So that might be something as, sounds simple to us, like they didn't really get to eat and the rain was getting in the tent. And it was miserable for them, right? Really miserable. But the next day, they got over it, they got through it, they got something to eat, and then they were able to laugh about it. And they didn't make the same mistake again, right? They made sure the tent was better the next time, and they cooked properly and they're prepared properly. But those formative experiences are what builds good men, frankly.
To a much, lesser degree, kind of sounds like old war stories, to where you say we were in the trenches together.
It really is similar to that to some extent, right? Where, again, let me be clear. Kids need risk, right? When, again, I'm a bit older than you, but I'd be from the age of 10, 11, 12, out with my friends, my buddies, from the moment it was daylight until it was dark. We didn't have, let me just grab mine. We didn't have, water bottles with us. We somehow got through the day. But again, it's like, it's formative. And of course, at that time, what were our parents worried about, don't speak to a stranger in a white van, right? There was somewhat of a moral panic around that.
Which I still tell my kids. I'm like, you see that van? That's where they pull children inside, which I know maybe you shouldn't say that.
Yeah, and it really is.
You're from law enforcement. I know you know the difference, but
yeah, exactly. But again, having that that camaraderie is absolutely crucial, and it really is baked into the program. I agree with you.
Could you say more about risk?
Yeah, so we one of our acronyms is based around SAFE, supervision, assessment, fitness and skills, equipment and environment. But the first part of that is the S, the supervision aspect. So in scouting, everything is a perceived and a controlled risk, right? The kids have the perception that they're taking risks because in their world they are. But of course, the adults are around for supervision, and that's a critical part of our approach with regards to prevention of harm. Is those safe adults being around, being trained, and kids just learn in a really safe environment. I was telling someone the other day about this chance. I said, how many, again, what we know in the United States is. Tragically, too many kids are harmed by firearms, right?
Yeah.
By firearms being left around and all that kind of thing. How many lives have been saved in the last 115 years because kids learned to deal safely with firearms in scouting? The number's probably tens of thousands, but we'll never know. They were prevented, right? Even just safely dealing with firearms in the United States is a skill that often kids don't learn. Sometimes until it's too late, but in scouting they get to eventually shoot firearms. Okay, fine, but that's not what they're really learning. They're learning about a safe way to deal with firearms in a controlled environment, right? Everything's about that supervision aspect. So while kids need risk, everything in scouting is in a controlled environment. Even the high adventure activities we do are in a controlled environment. So it's all about controlled risk, really.
You mentioned firearm deaths. I mean, the number one cause of firearm deaths is suicide. Yeah. And mental health in boys right now is a big, huge concern. AIBM, men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. I think, boys and men account for something like 70%. I don't know that number for sure off the top of my head, but many times you hear people say boys are shut up in their room. They're isolated. They never ask a girl out. They never make friends, and these are extreme cases, but directionally it's moving the wrong way. How do you think about mental health in scouting?
Yeah, I think this is a great kind of topic writ large in terms of the challenges for boys today. What we know is, and this is from evidence, this is not from opinion, but what we know is that the scouting program provides better mental health outcomes for adults. Now, unfortunately, it was my old country that did this research, but it's real evidence-based research which demonstrates that better outcomes in adulthood are from kids who were in scouting.
Really?
Not small numbers either, big numbers. So the scouting program itself is better for kids' mental health. So again, by following the scouting program, by development in scouting, frankly, again, some parents won't know this. By a kid being outside and walking around for 20 minutes, it's better for their mental health, right? Like instinctively we know it, but the evidence says that's true as well.
It's called outdoor therapy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Just being outside. And again, there's something to be said with regards to the online aspect, right? I'm not a proponent of saying everything online is bad, right? Because the online space is something we need to deal with, much like when I was a kid, my parents worried about me crossing the road, right? The online space is the equivalent of that road today, and we need our kids to be empowered with the right knowledge, because we won't always be there when they're crossing that road. And we need them to know, hey, this is how you deal with it. But if you make a mistake, we got you back. And we as a society, we didn't get that message right for a long time. I don't think we do fully get it right now. The reason I say that is boys in particular are being targeted by criminals online for sextortion, right? So they meet a pretty girl online, they send a picture of themselves naked, and then their sextortion starts, and boys think it's the end of the world. Because
They kill themselves sometimes.
Yes, because some adults have said, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, when the message has to be, look, this is what's going on. And if you do make a mistake, we got you back. We can figure it out. It's actually not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, and we'll figure it out. And because we society, through our fear, we're putting that fear into the minds of children. We need to take that fear away. And we need to tell children, boys, hey, dude, this is not a good idea. But if you do it, don't worry, because we're going to figure it out. And again, having that village, if you like, that village approach of support in scouting is a crucial part of what we do. It's in our new safeguarding youth training, so our adults understand some of the challenges of the online space as well. We've got to deal with the online because it's part of everyday life now.
You're talking about equipping them with tools, essentially. And like you said, whether it's crossing the road, what to do if you're being sextorted, how to climb a rope or shoot a firearm or something like that. And it seems like mastery of skills is part of the beating heart of scouting, that they're learning about the outside world, but it seems like as you master something, you're also learning something about yourself. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great way of looking at it, because I've seen that that development in my son. And then, but one of our things is prepared for life, and it really is that thing about looking at oneself during that development phase. And again, I firmly believe, I mentioned he's a better man through scouting, because of the positive male role models that were around him in scouting. Not just his dad, maybe I played a little part, hopefully I did. But he had positive male role models other than me to lean on. And sometimes, especially with kids, maybe especially with boys, his scoutmaster would say exactly the same thing I'd said to him, and he would listen to him. And I didn't mind that, because he was a good man giving him good messages. So I'm like, you know what? If that's a place where you can go and live out some of these experiences to learn about yourself, to develop that same messaging, well, that's a positive. We're all
Glenn, what's the deal with the knots? Why do you have to learn how to tie knots?
Well, again, me not being a scouter for many years, I probably wouldn't be the guy to come to, right? And I have guys in our program who would be like, oh no, don't ask Glenn about the knots. But again, it's all about that process, and developing something that becomes second nature, in a way that these kids can tie these knots blindfolded now. And
so it's about discipline, or is it skill?
Like discipline, about that repetition, about learning something that's of value, where and I would link it to the merit badges. The merit badges are, of course, about getting the little badge and showing on your uniform that you developed and everything else. But it is also about developing real world skills that people will carry on using in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and be like, well, how do you know that? Scouting. Not from school, scouting. So it's as much about the process, in my view, at least, as it is about the outcome.
As you've worked with the organization, but also as a dad who has seen this up close, what else have you seen skills built in, or resilience built, or grit, or whatever it is? Because some of these are intangibles that I hope my sons take away from it. I hope they can tie a knot. First, we need to do shoes, which we are not even there yet. And then they can do the knots or whatever. But some of these are intangibles that I want them to know in hard times in the future. Don't always just quit the project or job or marriage or whatever. Like, stick with this stuff.
Yeah. Again, the intangible aspect of it takes more time to see, I guess, is the first thing. And in that moment of what seems like failure, especially for a kid, it can seem like the end of the world, right? Like I ruined this dinner because I didn't have the right equipment or whatever it is. And it's only through learning from that and coming back from it and doing something better the next time, that's when they start to build that inner strength and learning that actually it's okay. It's okay to fail, and people will still have my back. They'll still be, hey, remember that time when? And that remember that time when thing goes all the way through the organization. Remember that time when I was 12 and you're 60 now and you're still living that? Like, that's how it works.
Yes.
But people learning and then having that resilience again is a huge part of the scouting program, frankly.
I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking so much about mastery that I forgot that probably 95 times before you master something that you fail or you're just marginally improving.
Yeah, and again, that's why, and I understand why we rightly celebrate our eagles, but the majority of kids don't get eagle. But again, it's my view. It's like that's not the magic of scouting. The magic of scouting is building that inner resilience. Whether or not you got an eagle or not is okay, great if you did, but it doesn't mean you failed if you didn't. It's like
right.
You got something. The most essence part of scouting, the best part of scouting is living that scout oath and scout law. And while I wasn't in scouting until a couple of years ago, I lived that life in law enforcement, a life of service, giving back, putting
fraternity,
a real brotherhood. Kids. We were basically kids when I joined. I was 17 when I joined law enforcement.
What?
Yeah.
Now that's I don't know if I want a 17-year-old on the beat.
Yeah, no, the Queen took me on when I was young, but
wow.
So I was still what we regard as a youth now. Again, I've still got friends from way back when. So
wow. I know that scouting, you said there are 200 girls in scouting now, but
200,000.
200,000 girls. Okay.
Yeah.
Part of the value, I think, for a single-sex spaces, you do see that some kids, in some respects, can flourish in those. And I think for some boys, this would not have been me at all because all of my best friends were girlfriends, still are girlfriends. That some boys really need to be around boys, and they enjoy being around boys and roughhousing and testing each other and things like that. Which can, some of this stuff can be a little blue at times, and it's not always completely TV ready. If people are thinking, but I want the fraternity aspect of that, can they still get that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I'm laughing because that's exactly what I got playing sport. There was stuff where we were like, honestly, it's good the girls aren't around now to see how dumb we are. And again, I know we're recording this, but I still have my boy man time with my buddies, where we'll just be we'll just be older boys, we'll just be men doing men stuff. That's okay. And my dear wife, she does stuff with her girlfriends.
Exactly.
That's great. And so I think the beauty of where we're headed in scouting as it is right now, and at least in my view in the future, is there'll always be a place, at least as far as everything I know, there'll always be a place for boy-only troops. Okay. So again, it should really be about parents going, you know what, for my boy or for my sons, I think that's probably what they need right now. And for the tens of thousands of boy-only units, that's what they do, right? And there's a valuable place for that. And I think, maybe we can come on to it. We're running right now a pilot with regards to combined or co-ed troops.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's a pilot, and more than that, we have female-only troops. I was at an event a few months ago with some women in scouting. Fantastic! I mean, the great presentation, and they were saying, "Oh, by the way, Glenn, whatever happens with that combined pilot, most of our female-only troops are going to stay female-only." They said,
"Really?"
And okay. I was like, okay, knock yourself out. I said, actually more than that, the evidence would say that our boy-only troops, there's a place for that. There's a place where boys need to be boys.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean the combined troops or the co-ed troops are a bad thing. It just means we can have this and we can have this. We can have both things. Like, that we should be able to have nice things, which includes being able to celebrate and see the value in our boy-only troops.
If someone is not religious, because some families are worried the Scouts are too religious, I've heard, I didn't even know they were religious at all. Is this a good place for people who find themselves not in that zone?
Yeah, and again, it's all about personal choice, and it's all about folks finding units that are going to suit them in their personal circumstances.
Okay.
But scouting is a place, this is probably the wrong phrase, where you can shop around. You can shop around for the unit and the type of scouting experience that would suit you and your family.
Yeah. Let's talk about mentoring, which also intersects with safety. I looked at this for the Institute for Family Studies, which is like a pro-family type organization. And they look at families who have dads in the home. The kids are 2 times more likely to be college educated, less likely to be unemployed, less jail time, difficulty with authority, also way down. So having a male figure in their home, really good. If you don't have one in your home, or if you just want to supplement it, like you were saying, with other figures, having male figures for boys in particular, and again, I know there are girls in Scouts, but boys in particular, seems like an important element.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think we have a really... There just couldn't be a better example of that than David Montgomery. Single mom. He basically underlines the fact also that you can do sports and scouting, right? Because I think he's done rather well in sports, playing in the NFL, but also as an Eagle Scout. And he had those very good, strong male role models. We actually, unbeknown to him, when he came to our national annual meeting just a few weeks ago, he was on stage speaking, and he mentioned his Scoutmasters. Unbeknown to him, we had them there, and we. Oh my gosh! I mean, it was. I was like, no, there's just something in my eye. I'm fine.
I know.
But yeah, real magical stuff, and he got that from his Scoutmasters. So yeah, I think that's a really great example of exactly what you're talking about, and it's that village approach, right? It takes a village sometimes to raise a kid. So yeah, that's true.
We all know, and I think your demeanor is so good because you deal routinely with really difficult matters. And with Boy Scouts, I mean, there's a whole section of the website that talks about settlements and things like that because the biggest concern of most parents is predation. Yes. And it has come to light, and a lot of people think, I love the idea, but I first and foremost have to keep my children safe. You have written about this in Scouting Wire. You wrote this: As manipulative as they are, criminals still make mistakes and leave clues. These clues don't require a Sherlock Holmes level of insight. Often, if you know what to look for, there are red flags or breadcrumbs being left for anyone to see. What would that look like?
Yeah, so
I assume you train people.
yes, we do. And, we talk about safeguarding, so prevention of harm and prevention of abuse as a journey. And it really is a journey because, as things evolve, especially with the online space, the threat changes. So we have to be kind of, I would say, humble enough, but also smart enough to realize it isn't about one person. It's certainly not just about me. We have a huge team of experts, law enforcement, academia, even survivors of abuse in scouting that help us on this journey. And to your point, it is all about the training, but not just the training. It's about employing what you learn in the training in real world environments. So signs like, signs of grooming. Why is this adult trying to isolate this child? Like, things that are clearly not allowed in scouting are immediately put to a stop. Now, the evidence would say that the youth serving organizations in the United States, and this is a recent study, I can send it to you. Youth serving organizations in the United States, the Big Six as they're known, including scouting, are generally safer than sports and schools for a child outside of their family environment. Now, that's
How about
not
church?
it's not that unusual if you think about what the rules are, okay? And in this study, I'm not certainly not going to read it to your chance, so it's okay, but this study would indicate that the barriers to abuse being well understood. So, for example, no one-on-one contact is one of our key tenets, right?
Okay.
That basically stops a predatory adult from being able to spend time alone with someone else's child. And our approach with regards safeguarding, again, for any parents out there in particular, is the parent are a vital part of the triangle. So we have Scouting America, the youth, and the parent. So that strong triangle means that we, Scouting America, won't get in between the youth and their parent. That's a vital part of our approach. We'll empower the youth, will empower our volunteers, and will empower the parents. We're actually working on something new for parents in particular who are not Scouters. So obviously, as I said earlier, all parents are welcome. So if they want to be with little Johnny the whole time through their scouting journey, they're all welcome. So there's no secrets. If they want to be there, they can be there. They're welcome to register. So that's part of it as well. But for those parents who don't have the time, perhaps, then they get the training as well. They can take the full training, which is 90 minutes actually, but
Okay.
that's not that long. There's some really key information in there, but it's important that parents know they are part of that safeguarding journey.
Well, and don't you think in the past, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, given your history in law enforcement and safeguarding, is a lot of people think, well, surely not this person. It couldn't be this leader or this coach or this priest or whatever. But you also write in there, reporting inappropriate behavior, innocuous as an incident might seem at the time, can provide a piece of the puzzle that may help reveal an identifiable pattern of behavior, because you're only dealing with this little slice or think, well, that was weird, but no, he seems like a really nice guy. And you say, no, it can be the nice guy. Usually it's not, but it can be. So you need to come forward with even innocuous seeming information.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of our key tenets. And again, it's not, for anyone who's an older listener, it's not becoming Columbo. It's not for you to investigate. You just report it. You're not accusing anyone of anything.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us stronger as an organization. But sometimes it really is the, in quotes, great guy, right? Somebody who's, it wouldn't be him. Well, that's because, professional manipulators, right, manipulate the adults around them as well. And, the quote goes something like this. Such a great guy, fantastic with children. It was like he was put on this planet to work with children. Someone said that about Larry Nassar, because Larry Nassar had abused dozens of boys, but everyone thought he was a great guy.
Sandusky, Nasser, all these
And just
people. Yeah.
it's like, you know what? There's a small percentage of adults who are sexually interested in children. That's a fact. There's a small percentage, more men than women, but it's a case of going, okay, we just need to deal with that, be empowered with the information, and go and enjoy scouting, sports, whatever it is you're interested in doing, but have the knowledge,
Yeah.
be empowered, and then go and enjoy. Because we can't live in the world of fear, because we're then doing a disservice to our kids, right? We got to empower them. One of our approaches, Chance, is we have a youth advisory council. So we also bring the voice of youth into our planning, into what we're doing, and get feedback from them. Because as I said earlier, kids are smart, and we're not putting the responsibility on them, but we're basically saying, is what we're doing and how we're doing it, will it resonate with kids your age? Because again, they know what's going to resonate with a kid much better than we do.
That also implicitly says we're listening and we care. Can you just say, in a nutshell, the overarching message of Scouting America? And because for parents who may be concerned and thinking, not my child's information going in some binder in a back room locked, and it never gets to light. I mean, clearly you're here, you're speaking about it. They pay someone to do this now. What is the overarching message to parents then?
The overarching message is everything we do is, I try and avoid evidence-based, because it's informed by the evidence, but it isn't only our plan. Like we have a very collaborative approach to everything we're doing, and if the evidence informs us we need to pivot slightly in our prevention approach, that's exactly what we'll do.
Okay.
We are 100% on a journey. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Forth Bridge, and we say it's like painting the Forth Bridge. It's so long, this bridge. When you get to the end, you need to go back to the beginning. And we are. I sometimes say I have the best worst job in the organization. And it really is that, because it's like my army is massive, 500,000 adults and over 1 million kids, and my message to parents is this: like, if you want to come and enjoy it, please come and be part of the journey with us. And my message to anyone who's thinking about abusing their position of trust is, you're going to choose the wrong place, because we have over 1 million sheepdogs. We have no sheep for you. So if you want to roll that dice, you're going to get caught. But again, I want people to know, while the threat exists and we have the right information, they shouldn't live their life through fear, because fear is what they thrive upon. And if we
silence.
Fear and silence is what they thrive upon. We've got to get rid of that.
Let's in there, because as you say, the vast majority of participants find great value and joy and reward in participation, including parents. And Richard Reeves of AIBM, he said, Scout leaders are like mental health professionals in disguise. I mean, beyond being outdoors, beyond learning the knots, you have this built-in mentor. So if people are thinking, all right, I think this is going to be for me. How can they go about finding the right troop?
Yeah, so if they go to beascout.org, they'll see, through the power of IT, troops in their area. Actually, it's quite an easy process to find. Then, for you in Washington DC, you'll see troops in and around your area.
I've been looking.
So, yeah, it really is quite easy to join. And again, my kind of plea would be, give it a try and see if it works out for you and your family. Because, our to your earlier point, our boys in particular have distinct challenges right now. And
Yes.
we need to find a way for good men to be involved in scouting so that we can help those boys develop into good men. And I always say this, that is obviously then also a better outcome for women and girls, right? We have good men, it's a better outcome for women and girls. So everyone wins. It's not about one or the other, it's both, right?
Bingo. Okay, will I see you at the Jamboree?
Yes, sir. I hope to see you there as well. Volunteer positions are available.
Okay, all right. Glen Pounder, thank you so much. Great work over at Scouting America.
Thanks for having me.
Our boys love this stuff, so we plan to sign them up here in the Washington, D.C. area. I was searching around. I found a troop here nearby. Kids from school, good vibe. I'll see you at the troop meeting, I guess. New territory for me, but I love this idea of combining nature, discipline, skill building, failure, mastery, and friends in real life. Really important today. Share your thoughts about scouting in a comment. I'd love to read them. And follow Allboy on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Substack. The website is allboyallgood.com. I'm Chance Seals. See you soon.